tonight. Ready to talk about local government and decentralization. My big regards to the local government leaders out there.
All right, indeed, and the pleasure is ours having you here this very evening. Now with him is the Permanent Secretary of the same ministry, Mr. Ben Kumumanya, who also joins us here on the front bench. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the front bench.
Yeah, good evening, viewers, and you are welcome to participate and view this program where we shall share with you insights and details of our day-to-day performance.
And well, of course, when you also look into the reasons as to why the decentralized policy was launched by the government to ensure that services are brought closer to the people, but in the same regard, to push democracy far and beyond. Why not join us in this conversation? This is the front bench. So why not welcome to the front?
Fellow countrymen and women, these are our ministers and permanent secretaries at the front bench, representing the various ministries and answering the questions that matter to us. Join the conversation. This is the front bench.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome, traveler, to the adventure of a lifetime. Rare, beautiful, and precious. Embrace the unique, unforgettable, and extraordinary. Come and explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
This is the front bench.
709-602-592 is the WhatsApp number where you can send your comments and questions for the Minister and the Permanent Secretary this very evening. And you can also share the same questions via SMS, and we'll be able to share with them as they speak to you this very evening. We are also streaming live on UBC TV Live, that is on YouTube. For you who also wants to have your questions answered, you can as well send in the live chat. This is the front bench. The hashtag on X is UBC Frontbench. Join us. Welcome to the front as we address concerns by engaging with the leaders. Now, I'll quickly start off with the Minister of Local Government, that is Honorable Raphael Majezi. Again, Honorable, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start with understanding the mandate and the role of the ministry.
Thank you, Joram. Viewers, it's nice to start on this note. What is the mandate and the expanse of this sector called local government? The sector of local government comprises of the ministry itself, headed by the Minister and Minister of State for Local Government, with our Permanent Secretary and commissioners and staff. We sit at Workers' House. With us, we work with the Local Government Finance Commission. The Local Government Finance Commission is a commission in the Constitution. The body is set up to coordinate and advise government on local government financing. They sit with us on the on the Workers' House. They are on floor 10. They are chaired by Honorable Isaac Musumba with several commissioners and staff. With us in the sector, we have the local government associations. The different local governments have national associations. We have the Urban Authorities Association of Uganda, which brings together all the urban authorities. We have the Uganda Local Government Association, which brings together mainly the rural local governments. We recognize them as the key spokesperson or voice of their members, the local governments. With them we have the local governments themselves. The local governments, we're talking about the structure that moves from the village, LOC1, up to the district, LOC5. We're talking of 70,626 villages or LOC1s. We're talking of 10,594 parishes or LOC2. In the towns, we call them wards. And we're talking of the LOC3s, the sub-counties, the division, the town councils. We're talking of about 384 of those units. And these, at LOC4 level, we now have the municipalities. The municipalities are 31 in number. And at the higher level, local council 5, we have the districts and the cities. The districts are 135. The cities are 10. So Kampala Capital City Authority is outside this structure. It is an authority, as you hear, an authority under the president. But when you talk of the local governments, I'm talking of these 135 districts and cities and the structures below them. So the ministry is responsible for coordinating this structure. It is our responsibility, our mandate, to make sure that this structure is coordinated, is harmonious, is moving in the same direction in terms of our objectives, our goals, our outputs, and budgets. The ministry, therefore, is responsible for policy development. We develop the policy together with them. We consult them and other stakeholders. And our key policy, as you heard from JORAM, today we are still implementing the policy of decentralization by devolution. That is in the Constitution, Article 176, and the Local Government Act. So the mandate of the ministry is to make sure that we oversee implementation of this policy. And where necessary, we initiate any amendments or changes in the policy. This policy must have a legal framework. And our current legal framework is the Local Government Act. And we initiate regulations, we initiate amendments to the law, we make sure that there is an effective legal framework to implement the policy of decentralization. It is our mandate and responsibility to make sure that we supervise the local governments. And we do that through departments. We have various departments whose mandate and responsibility is to supervise the effectiveness of these local governments. We do, whenever there is an election, we do come up with a program to build their capacity, the capacity of the councillors, through induction, through training, through refresher training and so on. But even the technical officers, we do have programs for their capacity building. It is the mandate of the ministry to make sure that this entire sector is funded. It's funded in terms of the government budgets, the government, central government resources, the grants, conditional grants and conditional grants, equalization grants, but also to assist the local governments to make sure that they are able to mobilize their own local revenues. And we support them to enhance that in terms of their capacity. They need staffing, they have their statutory bodies, and all that is really under our responsibility to make sure that in each district we have a district service commission in charge of staffing. In each district we have a district public accounts committee in charge of accountabilities and financial management. In each district we have a district land board in charge of management of this vital resource or asset in the local government. So this is our mandate. This is our responsibility. As you'll appreciate, it's not a small one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Honorable, something to do with decentralization. When you look at the vision was to empower the citizens, the public, looking at how the ministry is creating that trust for the public to participate directly in decision making and how the local government operates, what kind of message can you give to the viewer this evening?
Well, the rationale, the reason why decentralization was agreed on was exactly that one. To make sure that the citizens participate in deciding their destiny, in determining their governance, in determining their development programming, in making sure that the government at the high level is informed by the aspirations of the people down there. So how do we do that? First, in terms of elections, making sure that this structure which I've defined has managers, political overseers. It also has technical officials, except the village. That's where we don't have a technical staff. The technical staff of government stop at the parish, where we have a parish chief. But making sure that we have both elected leaders, credibly elected leaders who have the trust of the people, that we are electing you, Raphael Majezi, because we have, you have our trust, and we think that you will lead us in the next 5 years. That is very key. But also making sure that the entire framework of budgeting, planning, decision-making is participatory. It's participatory, taking into account the configuration of the community and society, especially in terms of bringing on board the hitherto, parts of the society which were left behind. For example, the women, the youth, persons with a disability, the elderly. You'll find that at every council now we're talking of affirmative action. Whether it's women councils, youth councils, disability councils, and so on. So we're looking at ensuring that the ordinary person feels represented, is also participating in determining the direction that their area is taking. But also, finally, we do reach out to them to have barazas. Barazas, these are engagements between the local leaders and the communities whom they represent. That's why even under PDM, Parish Development Model, if you take note of what I've said, we ensure that the population is represented at the parish level, Parish Development Committee of the PDM, you will find the chairperson of the women councils is there, the chairperson of the youth councils, the chairperson of the disability councils, the chairperson of the elderly, and of course the chairperson of the party in power. So we make sure that there is an interface between the leaders and the led, the population. And I think for me that is a very critical tool. That is why I mentioned the terminology. In Uganda we are practicing decentralization by devolution. Oh. That means we actually recognize these local government units as a form of government at that level, with mandate, with powers, with functions, with resources, with managers, and with an accountability function to the population, that they are able to have an interface through the barazas, through the council meetings. We're now looking at how can we make sure that the councils are actually more transparent, more open, the citizenry, so that they get to know. So that's why we need the media. We need the radios, we need the TVs, we need the social media, so that people know what are you debating in council, what are you taking in the budget this year, what are the development plans of our parish, of our sub-county, of our town, of our district. So for me, I'm confident. We may not be where the lawmakers wanted us to be when they made the constitution, but I think we've covered good ground.
All right.
Yeah.
Now let me rush direct to the permanent secretary this very evening. PS, let's talk something to do with the partners and development partnerships and development partners that the Ministry of Local Government has been having over the years, and also how does it ensure sustainable domestic strategies that can also enhance financial recovery for the local governments?
Yeah, thank you very much, JORAM. Viewers, for quite some time, over 20 years, we have been engaged with development partners to mobilize resources to support local governments to implement decentralized services. And these stem from community access roads, agro-processing facilities, supporting production, and also supporting putting up urban markets. This has helped us now to operationalize the government policy of stepping up production, which is the backbone of our economy, to ensure that wealth is created, but also household income is improved. I remember one of our first projects was called Area-Based Agriculture Modernization Program, and we supported a number of agricultural productivity lines, and one of them was rice. As I talk now, if you go to Chihihi in Kanungu, if you go to Rwimi in Unyangabo, if you go to Vikurungu and Wambara in Rukunjiri, you'll be able to find some traces of the support we gave at that time. But we have gone ahead to do a number of things. For example, we have put a lot of community access roads under the ministry. I remember 15 years ago, the Minister of Local Government convinced that you don't have to first upgrade community access roads to give them gravel. And we were allowed, and we started graveling community access roads to give them a long lifespan. We have put up urban markets supported by African Development Bank. In every urban area, there has always been a central market. But the markets which had been put up as far back as mid-50s, early 60s, had got dilapidated. So we have been able to put up big urban markets, 21 in number, 2 are in Kampala, but 19 are scattered all the way from Marua, Kitgum, Gulu, Kabale, Kasese, and a number of other areas. And these have helped, first and foremost, to give the vendors a good working environment, to give them facilities like daycare centers, microfinance units, and a number of other facilities. And at the same time, they are able now to pay their dues to support development in local governments.
Yes. Well, PS, you've mentioned something about the markets, and that is where I want us to dive into. How does one acquire a stall in these markets that have been set up by the local government? Because that is also a critical issue here.
Yeah, thank you very much, JORAM. There is a whole spectrum of regulations which allow people to apply. There is an allocation committee, and this allocation committee is vetted through the existing structures. Like the Honorable Minister has mentioned, we have structures in the local governments. We have the technical wing, for example, in urban areas headed by the town clerk. We have the political wing headed by a mayor, and this mayor has an executive committee, and this executive committee have portfolios. There is one who is responsible for, let's say, production in that area. And then, of course, also we have the RCCs and the RDCs, and these normally help to ensure that systems are put in place for allocation. But also now the ministry comes in to ensure quality, as the minister has explained. But also, most importantly, in 2023, the Markets Act, the first of its kind since 1959, was enacted. And this Market Act has given us exactly the guidelines on who is supposed to own a store. For example, one must have been a vendor. There must be a record and history that one is a vendor. One must have one store in a market, and also we must make sure that there is no subletting. It's now a matter of law. Okay. And recently, led by the minister, we have gone throughout all where markets are, and we have cleaned up to ensure that any deficiencies which could have happened, we have worked on them. So this MATIP project has really shown how you can put in place a market that first and foremost has the environment for where one can work in, but also to enable them to pay dues which can help in other development. I wish to also inform viewers that because now of those changes, working on community access roads, working on the markets, we have now digitalized local revenue collection through our digital systems, and these have seen improvement. For example, one of our markets, Arua Market, now I can authoritatively state that they are able to collect about 100 million per month, and this is one very good. And then other markets like Mbalala, like Guru, are also collecting some reasonable amount. And this one will now help government because it will reduce the burden on the central government if they can be able to mobilize their own resources. So we are very excited as a ministry for leading that initiative of supporting production and productivity value chains, but also indirectly we are supporting the agro-industrialization program 1 of the NDP3, okay, but also supporting Pillar 1 of PDM, which is production, processing and marketing.
Well, and of course, our dear viewer, you can easily see some bit of the programs by the Ministry of Local Governments that have been on the screen there, and we are going to be showing you more of the same, the success challenges, some of the markets, as you can see on the screen. But now that takes me to the Minister. Honorable, when you look at some of the reports that we have, 80% of the funding to the local governments comes in from the central government. And one may wonder, because when you look at the Auditor General's report in 2023, it highlighted some delayed disbursements. And of course, these are continuous things, especially when there is not so much money within the economy and what the Treasury has. But looking into what the ministry is doing to ensure that these local governments can be empowered to also source their own revenue, what are some of those?
Well, the PS has mentioned some of them. Like digital systems, the integrated revenue administration system, the e-lograve and other systems, which have shown that yes, we are able as local governments to increase our local revenue. It is possible that instead of the traditional receipting system, yes, where I pay you and you write a receipt and sometimes you don't take the money to where it's supposed to go, we now pay the machine is able to record and give you your receipt. It's been proved, yes, it works. We can increase our local revenue financing. The other one, which has been a bit of a challenge, a bit of a complaint from the local governments, was the fact that there was a little bit of a demotivator when we, because of the single treasury account system, we instructed the local governments to remit all the local revenue to Treasury. So some of them were saying, but look, you're keeping our money for 2-3 months. So we can't collect the garbage, we can't pay our councillors, the money is with you at the center, then you'll send it back. Parliament did make a recommendation, a resolution, This money should be left with the local governments. As I speak, Cabinet has also adopted that. We are also agreeing with Parliament, and we're working with the Minister of Finance to make sure that we do the policy reverse of that. If it needs amending the Public Finance Management Act, it shall be done to make sure that these local governments keep their money, but electronically we are able to know how much has been collected. So you don't have to move the physical cash, because they've been saying, look, this is a demotivator to our local revenue management. So we shall do that. The other one has been the lower levels especially, claiming that they don't get their percentages. And that is because of that money being remitted, and it has to go back down. We work with them to make sure that this is addressed. We are also looking at broadening the revenue base. As the PS explained, we have a program for development of markets, because markets are both for trade order, but also for improving the revenue base. There is a lot of potential in the property taxes or property payments, especially in the urban areas. Now, but more important, we're now looking at the base. You're collecting money from what? From who? That is why as government we said, let the local governments manage the wealth creation programs like PDM, so that the community from whom you're going to collect the taxes, the fees, the revenue, is actually empowered. And the sector of local government is at the forefront of implementing the PDM, MIOGA, the Youth Fund, the Women in Development Fund, and so on. So my hope is that as we continue implementing these government programs, the base from which we are collecting the local revenue of local governments will be enhanced. That does not preclude the fact that we continue as central government to give the grants to the local governments, albeit the fact that most of these grants are conditional. So improving the capacity of local governments, the capacity of councillors to monitor and supervise, means that people out there see a value for money. Unless you link payments to service delivery, you will not get the payment. True. So our responsibility as a ministry is to make sure that we keep on encouraging and working with the local governments to showcase, to show cause for the people to pay taxes by providing efficient and effective services.
And when we do return, we're going to be talking matters cities. We shall talk the parish development model. We're going to be talking matters recruitment, then matters corruption. And we shall as well be answering some of the few questions that I'm seeing that are coming through from you, our dear viewers. So keep them coming as the front bench does take a break. But when we do return, that and more is what we will be having in the second part of our conversation here. Welcome to the front. Good evening.
This is the front bench.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Uganda, are you ready to kick things up to the next level? The Uganda National Lottery brings you Sports Take 10. Predict the results of 10 football games and win big. With tickets at only 500 shillings, join the fun and make your predictions count with SportsTech 10. SportsTech 10, your ticket to football glory.
Uganda National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba, Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
Tuliko groundi, Plascon, paint and win. This year, Plascon paint and win. Tuliko groundi. Chicho, buy paint worth 100K. Get a scratch card. SMS the code 27197. Stand a chance to win instant airtime, 1 million shillings bully day there, or a share of a 3 million shillings jackpot each week. What do you want the brand new podas, tuk-tuks and so much more. Catch the paint and win action every Monday on Bukede One, NBS and Sanyuka TV. Plascon, color your world.
This is the Front Bench.
The hashtag is UBC Front Bench for those of you who are following the discussions. And I have questions coming in from our WhatsApp number here on the UBC Front Bench rather. And thank you very much for sharing your concerns as well and being part of the show every Monday, 8:30 p.m. I'll be taking some of these questions as the show does continue. Now, first is TK from Tungamo. He says, good evening. I do ask Honorable about the creation of new administrative units. That is TK from Tungamo, and that is a question heading to the Honorable Minister. I think the Honorable will also take this one. This one from Toko Godfrey says, good evening. Please, I want to know from the Minister, what procedures do they use to appoint the RDCs in every district? Thanks and kind regards. I think, Honorable, we can take on those now.
Thank you so much. TK in Tungamo, creation of new local governments and administrative units. I know that's a hot topic, especially at this time as we head towards the next elections. I already see a flood of requests on the table. Let's be clear to the viewers that when we talk of local governments and administrative units, those are two different things. The local governments stop at the sub-county or town council, the LOC3. These are government units which can sue or be sued. The sub-county, the town council, the municipality, the city, the district, these are local governments. But when we talk of administrative units, we mean the lower levels, the parish, the village, which play an effective role in administering their areas. Now, the request for new local governments and administrative units is protected by the Constitution, Article 179, which provides for how you can go about requesting for a new unit if you want to, and the factors to consider, including communication, the need for services, the need for more effective administration, the will of the people, the topography, and that kind of stuff. So, various districts have expressed that need, and the procedure is, it moves from the areas at the lower level, they are councils which want to split or to create new areas, and it goes up to the district until I receive a council minute from the district council. It's when we can consider that as a formal request from that area. That said, as I described the structure we have, friends, you'll appreciate that this structure is already heavy. It's quite heavy, and yes, mindful of the right you have in the law to demand for new units. His Excellency the President has guided, and you've heard him several times. At this time, we want to focus on wealth creation. At this time, we want to focus on improving household incomes. We want to focus on effective services, roads, schools, health centers, water, electricity, and so on. Less focus on administrative costs. So we are mindful of this, and I hope citizens know that for the last, this Kisanji actually, since 2021, Cabinet put a ban on creation of new administrative units and local governments. So I can say since then, we've not created any new local government or administrative unit, not even to reconfigure their boundaries. Because I've seen some parishes, they say, we want to move from this area to the other area. We want to move this sub-county from this district to the other district. The minute you do that, you are actually affecting the boundaries of two districts in that case, and most likely the constituencies as well. And that decision cannot rest with the minister. It must go to cabinet and parliament. So since we still have the ban, friends, will have to wait. Tungamut, you have to wait until cabinet pronounces itself again on this matter. We're soon submitting a paper to cabinet so that they can guide on how to proceed in terms of the way forward. But the will of the people, they keep willing, they keep pushing their requests. You receive them, but you guide them. That in some cases, some of these parishes are big. The solution is not in splitting the parish so as to get more money for PDM. That cannot be the solution. There must be a limit to which you can go. The solution may be more in developing a more comprehensive formula that provides more resources to the relatively larger areas if they are actually comprised of people with the majority being in subsistence compared to the other parish. So let's wait until cabinet pronounces itself on this matter.
Okay, and now let me turn the attention to the PS here. Timothy Koryang in Kabong district says, I want to start by appreciating our minister and the PS for educating the public on the mandate of the ministry for the stewardship in coordinated decentralized functions. However, as local governments, one area we are requesting support is to roll out induction of councillors at all levels and on their roles and responsibilities. This will help in efficient and effective implementation and monitoring of government programs, including PDM. PS, what would you speak to that?
Yeah, thank you very much, viewers. As a practice, since we launched decentralization in 1992, we used to get induction every after election. We would do at the district level, and then we would go down and organize at the constituency level or county level by putting together all the OC3s. And we did this one, and things went on very well. But eventually later, because of change of priorities, we stopped getting finances from development partners. So now the challenge has been financing, but like the minister said, whenever we get any resources, we have been inducting, but inducting at district level, and we have been in many districts trying to induct. So our appeal is we need to be given enough resources to do induction for local councils at all levels, to take them into their responsibilities. And this one would be in line with even the constitutional provision, because Article 176(2)(e) of the Constitution provides that appropriate measures shall be done to enable local government units to plan, initiate, and execute policies in line with matters affecting their jurisdictions. So this was already seen by the lawmakers at the time of making the 1995 Constitution. So our appeal as a ministry is that we should get an adequate budget allocation, and this is good timing because we are now passing on this message to the responsible authorities that come 2026 after elections, we need to do like what the questionnaire asked, to go down and induct up to the lower levels. I wish also to add that even if we had resources, our government structure was very orchestrated. For example, I wish to inform viewers, in our LC 1 and 2 executive structure, we have a portfolio of Secretary for Production and Environmental Protection. If we were to use that one for all the wetlands that have been tampered with and strengthen those levels, they would help us, because the wetlands are in the villages, the wetlands are in the parishes and a number of other water bodies. But because we don't build their capacity, they may not know how dangerous it is for somebody to come and tamper with that one. At that same level at village and parish, we have a portfolio of Secretary for Education, Information, and mobilization. But many times we don't use them. So I want to agree with the questionnaire that going forward, one of our priorities is to make sure that we mobilize marshal requests for support, both internally and other ways, to be able to carry out induction, to be able to carry out capacity building, which will be talking to Article 176(2)(e) of the Constitution.
And Honorable, this one goes direct to you. This one says, good evening. I am Ojandu Fred. Mine goes to Honorable Rafael Majezi, Minister of Local Government. He says, Honorable, during staffing or recruitment of civil servants in different areas, especially in recruiting teachers, people responsible are not honest. They don't give some token, and others are not considered to be through, and this mostly happens in up countries. Please, I beg you to find out what is taking place. He says he does submit.
I understand that question, Fred. But let me first answer the one of Godfrey.
Okay.
The one about recruitment of RDCs.
Godfrey Toko.
Toko. The RDCs are a structure under local government in the Local Government Act. But the appointment is not under the local government sector. They are under the office of the president. I want to believe they have their procedures, they have their considerations, but I believe they look out for people who can effectively represent the president and government in the various districts and execute the function of RDC, being the overseer of government programs and also the head of security of those districts. So watch out when the Minister for Presidency appears on the UBC front bench, make sure that you're able to interface with her on that matter. But Fred, you are also asking about the efficiency of the district service commissions. You're looking at the personnel, the people in charge of recruitment of staff in local governments, their level of integrity, the level at which they do not ask for tokens or corruption or bribery. We are mindful of this, and friends, you'll have heard even the head of state several times complaining about inefficiency of the service commissions at the time of recruitment, corruption. We have to acknowledge this, that it is a challenge, not just for local governments. Corruption is a challenge in the country. But we as local government sector, we're going to tackle this matter head on. We're already mooting a proposal to shift or to reform the recruitment process to make it less of an interface with human beings. So we shall be talking of e-recruitment, that you can apply online without having to go to see somebody to fill a certain form. You can do that on your phone, on your laptop, on your computer. You can even actually sit an interview without having to sit before a panel, and then you start seeing somebody winking at you, and the results can come out, and you can get your results fairly and at the highest level of professionalism. We shall do that. We're discussing it, and we think it will be one of the ways of addressing this matter. Okay. Reduce the human interface. But secondly, we've opened the gates to whistleblowers. Don't allow to be cheated. If you are looking for a job, please, if somebody is demanding for payment, for anything, the lines are open. The RDC is in place. The ministry is there. The anti-corruption units, agencies of government, IGG, State House Anti-Corruption Unit, DPP, and everybody, they are there. Please report. The person who is receiving a bribe is as corrupt as you who is paying the bribe. And many of you come out only when you have failed to get the job. That's when you start crying out. But this is compromising service delivery in local government. It's killing our decentralization in terms of the objective. So we want to make sure that whichever service commissioner And we are not looking at the service commission. In some cases, it is actually one or two individuals, even the secretaries of these commissions, which are responsible. But finally, let me also mention this. Some of you are being cheated. Can I call it innocently? Somebody tells you, I know Raphael Majezi, the chairman of that commission, I know him. You come, I'm going to talk to him on your behalf. The fellow knocks at my door, enters and comes and greets me and goes out. He says, you see, I've talked to him and he needs something. Be careful. Don't allow yourself to be cheated. This is our country. We must fight corruption to the end of it. So it is right. Fred, thanks for pointing it out. But I want to give you the assurance, and I want to call on the local government leaders and officials. We are here, we are in our posts, principally, number one, to deliver services. It's not to make ourselves richer. We are here to deliver services. Secondly, we are trying to make sure that we turn local government units into agencies of wealth creation and social development. So it's not about looking or keeping a job for your son until he or she graduates. That's not acceptable. So I give you the assurance, fellow citizens, we are going to do this. Government is committed to making sure that we tackle this challenge head on.
Well, and let me get to the permanent secretary here. Looking into some of the infrastructure developments in the local governments, if you can share with the viewer this evening some of those that have been built by the ministry and what other projects the ministry is working on.
Yeah, thank you very much. And viewers, first I mentioned we have put up urban markets in most of the big urban centers or the 10 cities, plus 9 municipalities. We have done so many kilometers of community access roads. We have helped open up the network for connectivity, because community access roads are seen as connective points to markets, to feeder roads, to big towns and other areas. So we have done that one. In the past, we were having a challenge because whenever we did roads, they would not be maintained by local governments because they didn't have the resources. I am happy to remind viewers that you are aware that the president was able to mobilize resources for road equipment, and these were given to local governments, mainly to do maintenance. But even in addition to that one, again, a government gave 1 billion shillings. So the question of maintaining these infrastructures has been at least dealt with to some reasonable extent. We have put up agro-processing facilities, we have put up market sheds, and as I mentioned, once you put up a good market shed or market, or you are able to collect dues from the market people who are doing, and if you collect, those resources can be used for operation and maintenance. So, and I mentioned that we are doing all this to support production and productivity value chain. And this one has helped to really to fulfill one of the objectives of decentralization, which was to make local governments not only governance institutions, but also local government development agencies. But I just wish to add a rejoinder to what the minister mentioned about recruitment. We have instructed all local governments that in every advert, and I want countrymen to make sure that you watch out on this, must have a statement of zero tolerance to corruption, and also announcing that anyone who is asked for money should report, like the minister mentioned, the relevant bodies. So I want you to support us. If you see an advert which does not have that, yet there is an instruction, then already you whistleblower, like the minister said, because it means that even with that instruction, then there is a problem. And the reason why we are using that as one of the innovations to fight corruption, we want to see somebody who will release an advert during the day, saying that in this district there is no corruption, no one should pay any amount of money, and even telling you to report, and in the night, he or she comes and says, I want something. So that's an innovation in addition to recruitment and in addition to other interventions. But another appeal also which we are making as our target, one of the reasons why systems must be protected and defended is to have effective inspection regime. You must have people from government who must go in and inspect and check on these issues. I wish to mention that the struggle against wrong has been there. In 1659, Thomas Hobbes argued that human beings left alone will want to take advantage of every situation and will not control their appetite. And therefore he argued that the state must come in to check. So I want to make an appeal that One of the solutions is to support a robust inspection regime of the ministry, which is one of its functions, like the minister said, which is in section 105 of Local Government Cap 138. Inspection is critical, and once we get resources for inspection, we have enough human resource to go out and defend the citizens against wrongdoings of a few people, which Thomas Hobbes had talked about in 1659.
All right. And Honorable Minister, I'll be taking this question, and it also has a comment here. Mine was, how many cities do we have, if you can also list them? But this particular person also adds on to this, asking, good evening, why have we kept on increasing administrative units, and what are the procedures for, let's say, an area to have a city status?
Thank you very much. The number of cities I've mentioned earlier, we have 10 of them, in addition to the capital city. This is Arua, Gulu, Jinja, Lira, Soroti, Mbale, Hoima, Masaka, Mbarara, Fort Portal. Have I left out any? There are 10. In addition, there are 5 which were created by Parliament in 2020, which are not yet operational. Their future, as I said earlier, will depend on the decision of Cabinet. We are not creating more as such unless they are demanded by the people. So don't blame government. Say, why is government creating more administrative units? It's actually, it's the people who demand. And then you've seen a situation where people even reach the extent of eating rats. Say, unless you give us a district here, we're going to demonstrate, we're going to do that. But that's still said, it is our responsibility to carry out a study to know whether this area, a municipality, should be uplifted to the level of a city. If it has 500,000 people, it has its physical plan, it has various other factors in terms of the geography, the level of urbanization, and so on. When that is confirmed, then, as I said earlier, the district must pass a resolution and send it to the ministry that they request that their municipality or their area be lifted to a city status. And this is examined by the ministry, and then we submit a paper to Cabinet. Once Cabinet agrees, then the Minister of Local Government tables this in Parliament. Once Parliament approves, then the city is created. As we look ahead, I can see a number of towns which have actually developed and which are big. The challenge we now have is how to ensure that even without creating, for example, more municipalities, are we able to provide for these towns to do their physical plans? Are we able to provide for these towns to improve their infrastructure? Are we able to provide for these towns to make them more livable and better lit, with better streets and so on, so that we do not have this craze of thinking unless you become a municipality, then you will remain a slum. That one we must fight to make sure that we provide adequate services. So the cities in themselves are good, but I want to assure the citizens that even the municipalities, our framework, our thinking now is even the towns which are growing, because the rate of urbanization in Uganda is one of the highest in Africa, about 5.3% annually, which is quite big. So we must provide for a framework of urban service and development growth that caters for all levels of the towns, from the town board to the town council to the municipality to the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take the parting shots first from the permanent secretary. PS, I'll be taking your parting shots, but in your parting shots, I would love to hear something to do with the recruitment process, or the recruitment or employment opportunities, and how it is done with the local government system, and then also your comment on the developments within the PDM.
Yeah, thank you very much. Viewers, first and foremost, like the minister said, we have district service commissions, 135, city service commissions, there are 10, and we have the use regulations of the public service generally, and it's clearly captured in the law. When they are doing adverts, they follow those regulations. But also, most importantly, for each level of recruitment, a service committee must get a technical person, and for heads of departments, they normally get technical person from the center. So the center is involved in recruitment of. I wish to inform viewers that when we decentralized in 1993, there was an argument that we shall not have people out there. I wish to report that for each district, we have 9 heads of departments, and the department is headed by an assistant commissioner. As I talk now, in districts, we have more than 100 district production coordinators who are assistant commissioners. We have over 100 DEOs who are assistant commissioners, 84 DHOs, and then others, 111 district community development officers. Now, this shows that people have shifted from towns, from Kampala, and have gone down to support decentralization. So they are there, and they are recruited through a whole structure. They do aptitude, which is set by the center for some categorized jobs. They do interviews. Others, now we are going to introduce written, but also introduce the e-recruitment. I also want to mention, take this chance to mention viewers, that also, even in the elective posts, people who are educated have left towns and have actually gone down to the population. If I look at my statistics, 248 graduates have 1 degree, but 32, that is in only the executive committees, 32 have master's degree, 187 have diplomas, and 5 have PhDs. So we have had that level of education which has now gone into our local governments. So we believe with capacity building, we believe with training, we can be able to marshal organized governance structures in the local governments. The only challenge we had, as explained by the minister, was this indiscipline, which has resulted into bribes and corruption, which we are now going to tackle head on, and we believe that we shall be able to organize. But otherwise, generally, the regulations used, the examinations used are guided by the central government public service regulations.
Okay, and now we'll be taking the parting shots of the minister. Honorable, in your parting shots, I would like to know what is the ministry ensuring that the local governments are adequately equipped to speak to the Vision 2040, and then your last message to the viewer.
Thank you so much. When you look at Vision 2040, when you look at our National Development Plan, when you look at the NRM manifesto for this Kisanja, fellow leaders in local government, our focus is on wealth creation, job creation, increasing household incomes, and enabling the 39% of the households which have been in subsistence. Subsistence means that what you produce in the home is barely enough for your sustenance, and therefore you are not in the money economy. You just work to eat, and we, as the government, are committed to make sure that we address that scenario, that situation, so that we don't have households which are not in the money economy. And therefore, it's really where I want to end, by reminding ourselves that decentralization cannot reach its goal unless we score within the NDP, within the NRM manifesto, within the Vision 2040, of making sure that whichever village we live in, whichever town we live in, we don't leave anybody behind. And we're providing 100 million per parish per annum. As I speak now, each of the parishes has received 200 million shillings. And this financial year, which started in June, in July, which ends in June next year, we shall give another 100 million per parish. That money is for the parish. It's not for, it doesn't come back. It is your money. Protect it, make sure that you use it well. And the president has given you the formula. Use what he calls the Chibaro, profit calculation. Invest that money, 1 million shillings per household. Invest it in an enterprise which is going to give you profit. Whichever acreage you have of land, you are able to make a difference. And UBC, I would like to thank you because you've given us some of these examples where somebody has only half an acre, 1 acre, 4 acres, and they are able to feed themselves and produce a surplus to take to the market to sell and get some money. That is the objective of PDM. Protect it. Don't allow this disease of corruption, bribery, asking for money, demanding for money from beneficiaries. If you are a beneficiary and somebody is asking for money from you, before you get the PDM or after you get the PDM, quickly report that person to the RDC. We shall take charge. So I want to thank you because you've listened to the appeal of His Excellency the President. The President believes in decentralization as a form of governance that builds our democracy at the village level, that builds a framework to improve our incomes, and that also puts us in the framework for the rest of the East African countries. This week, as local governments of Uganda, we are hosting the East Africa Local Government Forum. All the countries of East Africa have a forum which brings together the ministers of local government and the national associations of local government. They are here from today up to Wednesday, Thursday at Speak Resort Munyonyo, discussing how local governments can play an active role in the integration process, and how through local government, the East Africa community can be better known, better appreciated by the local communities. I thank you so much. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to display what we are as a sector and to inform the populace about the local government.
Well, there you have it. The Honorable Minister of Local Government, Honorable Raphael Majezi, has been with us this evening on the front bench together with the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Ben Kumumanya, who is also here with us. And of course, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you too.
And to you, our dear viewer, who has been sending in your comments and, of course, your opinions as well. There are quite a number of these comments coming through, and we were not able to go through all of them. But thank you very much for being part of the show. Now, next week on Monday, we shall be having the Ministry of Kampala, Capital City and Metropolitan Affairs. Do make a date with us, 8:30 p.m. Mondays, here on the front bench. I'm JORAM Paul SSONKO. Till Monday next week, have yourselves a blessed evening and a good night.